This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. And today I have got an electric guest for you from outside our industry, which means it's going to be an awesome episode. I want everybody to meet my friend, Rod. Rod, what's going on, man?
Hey, David. Thanks for having me on, buddy. Let's have some fun today, brother.
Absolutely. And help me out because I purposely dodged pronouncing your last name.
My last name's Khleif. That's exactly what I would have said. So I didn't do my housekeeping properly before we launched. But listen, we're going to break this podcast down into a couple of different segments. One, I want people to hear your story. That's what I originally read that said, you know what, I need to have this guy on the podcast. But then there's another part of that, and that is that a lot of people in our industry, in the insurance industry, work really hard, make really good money on their income statement, but their balance sheet suffers because they don't know what to do with it to build their asset base after that. And I know you've got some tried and true methods for building passive income through multifamily, a real estate investment and other things. And I want to talk about that a little bit as well, because I think there's some things there that people can pick up on that if they want to go down that road, they can learn from you. So I'm going to turn it over to you. You know, I want to hear your story, man. So just share with everybody kind of how you got to where you're at, because it's been a bumpy road from it's a painful story, I will tell you, but it's got ups and downs. And then let's talk about investments, because right now with inflation, good God, they're saying it's 7.5%. So basically you got $100,000 in the bank, you're losing 7,500 this year. It's like, holy cow. And I think that's underestimating it. It's painful. I'm actually in a lot of cash right now, because I think at some point there'll be a contraction in this market, and cash is king when that happens. So let me go back. I'm going to go way back, because I think it'll add value and hopefully inspire, some of your listeners. So I immigrated this country when I was 6 years old. I was actually born in the Netherlands, in Holland, wooden shoes, windmills. And I came over with my brother, Albert, my mother's Vantje, and we ended up in Denver, Colorado, and we didn't have much. In fact, I remember we ate expired food. We went to an expired food store, which they had back then. I drank powdered milk with my cereal in the morning because we couldn't afford real milk. And I tell you, it sounds better than it is. And, I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I truthfully lied about my age at Burger King and got a job when I was 14. So I could buy my own clothes and then ultimately buy a car, which I wanted, of course, at that age. But, I'm sure you've got listeners that had it harder than I did, or maybe have it harder now. I don't know. But, I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And she became actually a bit of an entrepreneur with that babysitting money. She invested in the stock market successfully, and she also invested in real estate. Well, her first real estate acquisition was the house right across the street from where we lived. And she paid about $30,000 for it. Now, this is 1974. And a couple years later, actually told me, it was 75. A couple years later, she told me that she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. And I'm like, what? You made 20 grand and you didn't do anything? I'm screw college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I went out and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do back then with education. Now they got smart in pretty much every state. You need some experience to be a broker. But I was a broker. I could have my own office right when I turned 18. Well,
My first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, maybe 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was pretty good change for a punk kid. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened, and I think this is where I can add some value to your listeners. What happened was I met a guy that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology. How really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that mindset and psychology. It doesn't matter what the vehicle is, whether it's insurance sales, whether it's multifamily real estate, which is what I do and teach, or it doesn't matter. If it was just the knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there. It's the do and it's the keep doing, and it's to get your butt back up when you get your nose bloodied, as we all do in this business. And, in the insurance business as well, you get a lot of rejection. You got to deal with that. And so, fast forward to today, I've owned a couple thousand houses that I rented long-term. I've also owned thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you're like, wow. And I was like, wow. And I got a head so freaking big that you could barely fit it through a door. I thought it was a real estate god. And, if you do the math on that, it's like $8,300 an hour over a 40-hour work week for the year. And of course I did. And like I said, I was insufferable. And when that happens, sometimes God or the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008. I lost that 17 million, a lot more. I lost $50 million in 2008. I don't call them failures. I call them seminars. It's only a failure if you don't get back up, but it was a pretty painful seminar. And so I'm known for, I've got a podcast called Lifetime CashFlow through real estate investing. And I'm blessed to say we just broke 12 million downloads. It's the largest commercial real estate podcast, I think, in the world now. But, and I'm known for teaching people about mindset and psychology. In fact, I do clips every week they're 5-minute clips, and it doesn't even matter if you're interested in real estate or not. They're just motivational clips. So I would encourage you, if you want to get juiced once a week, I've got hundreds of them on there, but like I say, they're 5 minutes and they're called Own Your Power, about owning your power. People don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And, and these things really make you feel. I play music with them. They're really quite good. I'm proud of them. But, I teach people, or tell my story about, how I had the mindset to have 50 million to lose, and then how I got back to the success that I have today. So I'm happy to drill down on that with you, David, if you'd like, and just drill down on some of those strategies a little bit.
Absolutely, man. You got me on the edge of my seat.
All right. Well, the first thing is, you've got to know what it is you want and why you want it. So if you come to one of my boot camps, so I teach, thousands of people a year. I don't sell anything at my events. I just teach people how to buy multifamily. I don't think I've ever had a complaint other than in my live events that the food sucked or the room was too cold. And my virtual events, I do 15-minute breaks every few hours, and they bitch about the breaks, but trust me, they're harder on me. But the point is, one of the first things we do at these events is this goal setting workshop on steroids. Okay. And because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is, right? And you have to have what Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, calls a burning desire. You got to want it because, we've all got limiting beliefs or fears, or maybe we're comfortable. And the comfort zone's a warm place, and we all know nothing freaking grows there, right? So, you got to get a little uncomfortable to make things happen. And so, you've got to have that burning desire. And like I said, I spent about an hour and 20 minutes on it, but let me take 5 minutes and describe the process. Now, by the way, if you DM me on any social channel, they've even got me on freaking TikTok now. You DM me on any social channel, I will send you a link to I did this on January 1st on my Rod Khleif official Facebook page, where I did it with music. It was professionally done. You get a guide, goal setting guide. So I took people through this goal setting process. If you DM me on any social channel, I'll get you the link, and I'll guide you through this, which, by the way, is something awesome to do if you've got teenage kids. Have them do it, have your spouse do it. So, everybody gets aligned on what they want. But let me describe it real quick. So what you want to do is you want to pick an hour when you have a lot of energy. So you make sure you're well hydrated. You don't do it right after a meal. And just sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. All the stuff, the houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes, whatever it is, there's nothing wrong with stuff. Just whatever it is, you write that down, the jewelry, the clothes, and not just the New Year's resolutions that are forgotten by February, but everything that you could want in your entire lifetime. How much cash flow do you want from your investments, say in 3 years, in 10 years? How much money do you want in the bank for in case the, what hits the fan fund in say 3 years or 10 years? Write that down, write down all the things that you want to do as well, places you want to go. I've got vision boards for vacation, places I've been and want to go again, or places I haven't been, write all that stuff down. Where do you want to go? All the things you want to do as well. Like I say, I've got a friend that's climbing every mountain over 14,000 feet, bucket list items. A few years ago, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. I'll never freaking do it again, but it's off the list, that kind of stuff. Okay, write that stuff down. And so you've got the things you want to do, the things you want to have, then also write down everything you want to learn in this lifetime. You want to learn a foreign language, write that down. You want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come see me. But whatever it is, a skill set, whatever it is, write that down. Then lastly, write down who you're going to help. We'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And again, this is the fuel. This is to get you to, get past those setbacks, to get you to, get juiced and grind for a few years like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. This is that fuel. So write down who you're going to help. Like I bought my parents a house here in Florida when my dad was alive, bought them a car, took them on cruises. Who do you want to do things for? Write that down. And then, and if you're analytical, which I'm sure a lot of you are, if you're in the insurance business, you're crunching numbers all day long, don't stop and analyze your answers. You can always scratch them out later. Just keep writing. Don't let the pen leave the paper. Everything you want to do, be, or have, you write it down. See, people spend more time planning a freaking Christmas party or birthday party than they do designing their lives. Okay. And this is designing your life. So write down all those things. Once you can't think of another thing, just a couple more steps. I want you to put a time limit on each goal, how long you think it's going to take you to achieve it. So put a 5, a 10, even like years. Okay. This is years, a 1, a 5, a 10, even a 20. Okay. Realizing that we will overestimate what we can do in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, or 20 years. Now, I'm going to give you an example of that. I want to pre-frame this by saying I'm not bragging. I just want to inspire you to what's possible using this methodology. Okay. So when I was 18, I knew I wanted to live on the beach. I just knew it. And there's no beach in Denver, obviously. So I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the beach and, and all that, the surf. 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. On the beach on one side, and I had my boats on the backside. It's on Casey Key. You said you were just down here in Venice. It's the key just north of where you were on the beach there. And, it was a slice through the island. But see, the reason I bring that up is that was unthinkable when I was 18. So again, don't limit yourself. You take the lid off your brain when you're doing these goals. If, there's nothing you can't do, be, or have. I mean, look at Elon Musk, for example. Good God, $3 billion startups. Okay. No, there's nothing you can't do in this world if you set your mind to it. All right.
I'll tell you what, I say it all the time. You're going to earn in the denominations you're willing to think in, period. End of story.
That's it.
And I think that the number one thing that keeps people from gaining massive success, whether it be financially or as a parent or whatever it is your inability to think bigger than you've ever thought before and then push yourself to get there. I do have a question for you. When people are going through and they're just blitzing all of these hopes, dreams, goals, whatever.
Yeah.
Anytime I visualize, and I visualize a lot. I'm a dreamer. I everything you just said, I do that. I subscribe to that. I knew that when I got to $1 million book of business in terms of revenue, for me as a person, as an individual producer, that I was going to buy myself a 100th anniversary Cartier Roadster watch with an alligator band that was the royal blue of my company. I think about and visualize things that specifically. How important is it for you to be specific in what it is you're lining out for your goals and
critical? It's critical
to be, because I can see people say, "Oh, I just want to take a nice vacation." Great.
No.
I want to take a nice vacation in the Maldives.
No,
specifically in a bungalow, specifically in a bungalow for X number of days with a butler that's bringing me, I can keep
by
going.
January 1st. Okay.
Exactly.
So
and then put a deadline
precise,
on it.
Measurable. Yeah, no, very specific and measurable. And thank you for reminding me that I didn't mention that. Your goals have to be specific and measurable. Yeah. And no, absolutely. And when I saw the movie The Secret, if you haven't ever seen the movie The Secret or read the book, it was like, holy crap, that's what I've been doing for decades. I've given away thousands of copies of that movie. movie. Now, there's one failing in that movie. They tell you, to visualize and manifest stuff, but you actually have to take action too. And that they fail to mention that in the movie. But you've used it in your life. I've used it in my life. I've got vision boards behind my green screen here. You can kind of see them behind my recliner there on the floor. I've got pictures there of things that I want. I've got vision boards for each specific thing that I'm doing. And I'll talk about that a little more in just a second. But so you've got your goals listed. You need to pick your number one goal. And if there's a couple that are equally exciting, it won't matter for this exercise, but pick that goal. When you get it, you're like, oh my God, you've arrived. Pick that goal. Put that down. Then pick your top 3 1-year goals. You got 4 goals and leave room in between them because you're going to write something underneath each goal. So you've got 4 goals, your number 1 goal and your top 3 1-year goals. At this point, you're ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet that, like I said, will do New Year's resolutions forgotten historically, statistically, by about the middle of February, it's gone. Okay. So you're already ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet, but there's a couple more quick steps. You need to write under each one of those goals why it's an absolute freaking must for you to achieve it. And here's the key. Use emotionally charged words. Words are incredibly powerful. Words like beautiful and amazing and incredible. So you might say, so I can show my kids what incredible abundance looks like. So I can show my wife what it means to, or husband to what unbelievable freedom we can have. So that, we can have that freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever's going to juice you, write that down under each one of those goals, because it's the why that's going to drive you. Once you've got that done, take it one little step further and put some pain in there if you don't achieve it. And I mean, make it hurt. So I don't feel like a failure, if you don't achieve the goal. So I don't, fail my kids. So I don't fail my wife, I don't live a life of regret. See, David, there was this nurse in Australia named Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse. So of course she was taking care of patients when they were about to pass. And she asked him a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number 1 regret was? Not living my own life, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of a worse fate than that. So, if you're afraid of failure, by God, please fear regret much more than failure. We fail our way to success. Like I talked about my $50 million seminar, I've built 27 businesses. Several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most have been spectacular, flaming seminars. Okay. But we're entrepreneurs and those of you listening, you're entrepreneurs. If you're in this business and, we're like a shark. We only die if we stop swimming. So you got to keep swimming. Right. And so anyway, so you've got your goals and your whys, and you have to get pictures of your goals. I'll give you some examples of this or make declarations. Great example is Jim Carrey, the actor, the comedian. When he was flat broke, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. For those of you millennials, a check is something we used to use to pay for things. Yeah. Anyway, so wrote himself a check for $10 million. He'd go up by the Hollywood sign. He'd visualize cashing it. That's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you a more recent example. Demi Lovato, the singer, when she was unknown, posted on social media, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. A couple of Super Bowls ago, go see who sang it. I'll give you personal examples for me. When I was 18, I got my real estate license, broker's license, and I was going to, show people houses. So I got this bone ugly Ford Granada, piece of crap bench seat in the front, just a real, what. Anyway, but I worked for a guy, the first guy that taught me about mindset and psychology. I dated his daughter and I worked for him, and he had a couple of Corvettes and he let me drive one. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. So I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine. It's way before the internet. And I put it on the visor of that bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in there, it was right in front of my face. Within a year or two, I had a beautiful red Corvette. A couple more quick examples. Again, pre-frame. I'm not bragging. This stuff doesn't even interest me anymore, but I want to, replace what my examples with whatever it is you want. This is back when the TV show Magnum PI was out. Okay. There was an actor named Tom Selleck. He was a detective, I think, in Hawaii, and he had this Ferrari 308. And I thought that was the first time I ever saw an exotic. I thought that was the coolest thing I ever saw. And so I got a picture of that actual car put on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati, looked just like it. Last example, I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. I had the posters in my room with the girls washing them and all that when I've grown up. And what's interesting is my son collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30, the Ferraris and the McLarens and Porsches. But he had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But anyway, get pictures. In fact, I'll show you something. Do you put these on Facebook? I mean, on YouTube?
Yeah,
on YouTube?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is my planner. Okay. It's on today. In the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 20 years. Okay.
Is that an old Franklin planner?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. This is a Franklin plan. It was a daytimer, dude. This Franklin took over daytimer. So it was a daytimer initially. Okay. But anyway, these pictures have been in here for 20 years. Now, these first pictures you'll see are my kids. Look at that. There it is. You got yours hanging. Awesome. But see, these pictures are my gratitude pictures. My kids are now 30 and 26. These are when they were young. Guys, everything you want in life starts from a foundation of gratitude. Okay. So that's how you manifest this stuff. You do it through gratitude. It can be prayer, whatever. Thank you, God, or just thank you. But so these are my gratitude pictures. But then I've got pictures of the things that I wanted. What's interesting is I lost that house on the beach and all the craziness, but it looked just like this freaking picture. I had 10-foot high glass, travertine floors, just like that. Now I live in a compound. I've got 6 buildings. I've got a big main house, beautiful guest house on the water, a media building where I do my online video stuff. I had to go online with COVID and everything. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can see my old house across the bay. It's literally right across the bay from where I live here. But what's cool is, look at the pictures there. You see those white walls and those 2 pictures at the bottom, those white stone walls? That's my backyard. See the white stone wall? Is that freaking crazy? It's like 20 years ago. It's just like the view that I had in these pictures. And then I've got, stupid shit like watches. I got a few $100,000 worth of watches myself. It's, again, dumb stuff. But then here's the Lamborghini before I ever got it. Okay. Pictures. Rolls Royce, Bentley. Again, stuff that I got because I had pictures. So that's the last piece. Get pictures. They freaking work. And I do vision boards as well, as we mentioned. It sounds like you're a subscriber as well.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I think that you have to be very specific in what it is that your dreams, your hopes and dreams are. Right. I think that you definitely have to put deadlines there. The hardest thing for people to do most of the time is actually see that number one, if they can see that it's achievable, it's getting started, right? Yeah. We spend so much time, we get paralysis from analysis of just thinking through all of these things. And for me, it's always been, I've never sat down and come up with a laundry list like in an hour, like what you're talking about. So I'm definitely going to do that and go through that exercise. But I know what my goals are. I know what the stuff is, right? And I think that society is sort of bifurcated in their thought process on this. I don't think there's anything wrong with stuff, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with actually rewarding yourself with something material that becomes a monument to the success that you've had and the hard work that you've put in to get there. I think that
sorry to interrupt. Let me add a caveat. And the Bible talks about this, but it's that love of money that's the issue.
100%.
But if you're doing it to add value to make the world a better place, in fact, let me, if you don't mind, before we move on to the other thing, I'd like to share one other thing. I'm sorry I interrupted you, buddy.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, I want to tell a story because it relates to goals and then it ties into something else that's super important about all this. I built that house on the beach. Okay. It took me 20 years to make that happen. Okay. 20 years I worked for that. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. Now to describe this place, okay, I had a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to go through the waterfall to get the pool. Pools and magazines. Giant spiral staircase up to the middle of the house, wine cellar, elevator. I mean, just the house, to give you an idea of the house. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So it gives you an idea of the house. So I'm floating in the pool at night. It's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. And I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is the truth of it. I built it to prove the world I was good enough. I got picked on in school when I didn't speak English and, stuff we all went through, but I had something to prove. So I'm looking up at this thing. And again, this is 2 months after I moved in, something I worked for 20 years. And I'm looking up at this and I got depressed. And I don't mean just a little depressed. I mean, I was really bummed. I'm like, what the hell? I've just achieved success like times 1,000. I got my beautiful family sleeping inside. I got the cars. I've got the house. I've got the jet skis, the boat, all the stuff. And when I look back on it, there were a few things happening. I just want to share with your listeners real quick because it ties into this. So number one is it's never about the goals. You need the goals. You need to create that burning desire, but it's it's never about them. You know, they say the happiest days of a boat owner's life, the day they buy it and the day they sell it, right? It's never about the goals, but you got to have them to create that burning desire. But it's about who you become on your pursuit of those goals. And happiness doesn't come from the goals. Happiness comes from progress and growth. So, you know, like my boot camps, I teach this planning process. So you're always acknowledging your progress and growth, because you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have delays. But if you're growing even a little, you're going to be happy. But the big thing was, you know, I was totally focused on me. Rod, show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. And, you know, I went out and bought some books. You know, I was going to get myself back. You know, I got Tom Hopkins and Zig Ziglar, and I got a Tony Robbins book, and I started reading Tony's book, and I'm like, oh man, I really like this. So I went and saw him live, and I saw that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. But so I went back, and I was going to go to Denver for my brother to see my brother for Thanksgiving. And I called him. I said, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving. And so he called his church. He got 5 families that really needed help. We went shopping and bought the frozen turkeys and toys for their kids, and just had a blast buying the stuff. And the 3rd family changed my life. I go up to this door, and there's this woman there, and it wasn't even a 1-bedroom. It was a crappy 1-bedroom, because you had to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen. It was an old row house, and she was in there with 5 kids. And she came out and saw the food on the porch and the turkey and the toys, and she started crying. Her kids came out. The older one started crying, and I started crying, and I was freaking hooked. And now I'm blessed to say, you know, in the last 21 years, we've fed 110,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears, you know, to officers to put in their vehicles if they encounter a child that's been traumatized. Now, I'm not saying this to brag, but there's a message here, a really important message. And that is, you know, we've been taught, and this is what I thought, that you had to achieve to be happy. You know, that you don't be happy until you've achieved. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs have that mindset. I'm going to tell you, if you are giving back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. And I know it's a play on words, but it's an important one. See, Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. And I'd achieved. Science, achievement really is a science, okay? I mean, if you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come see me. I'll give you the map, the blueprint. You just got to go do it, okay? But fulfillment really is an art, because you have to find out what juices you. And so here's my challenge to you guys, those of you listening, is to figure that out if you don't already know it. If it's, for me, it's children, maybe it's the elderly, maybe it's animals, maybe it's the environment. I don't care what it is, but do something right now towards it. Because I know, David, I'm sure you've got really young agents that have blood dripping from their teeth. They want this success so bad. But guys, listen to me when I tell you, it will come faster if you're giving back as you're doing this. Don't say, I'll do it when I have money. Do it right now, because you'll get the success faster. And you don't do it for that reason, but you'll also be happily achieving. And again, I had to be 40 to get that memo, but thank you for allowing me to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So let's pivot for a second, and let's talk about multifamily. I mean, I know that you've got a very successful podcast revolving around it. I know you have you've authored a book, which, by the way, everybody listening to this, as we always do, we've got 10 copies of Rod's book, How to Create Lifetime Cashflow Through Multifamily Properties, that are available to the first 10 people who send me an email with the subject multifamily, david@floridariskpartners.com, subject line multifamily. If you can't follow the instructions, probably can't read the book. So let's go ahead and follow them. Makes it real easy for me to sort and get them out to you. But we want to do that.
That's really nice of you, buddy. Thank you.
That's Rod, but also to help some of you guys. And one of the reasons why I want Rod to talk about this is because we are in an industry where we can build some pretty significant wealth, both now and generational, if we have good perpetuation plans in place. But what I find from a lot of my peers is, and also in discussions with various financial planners who work specifically with insurance agents, is that we're not doing much with that wealth when we get it. We're not doing much with that money. We're not doing things to build our balance sheet and create passive income for ourselves. And we're an entrepreneurial group of people with better than average earnings, but we're not doing what we need to do to manage those earnings when we get them in. And so I'm always interested in other ways that we can deploy capital and make ourselves wealthier. Because at the end of the day, how fun is life if you're not playing Monopoly in real life, right? Yeah. I mean, that's how I'm wired. I'm happy with what I have. I could stop today and be perfectly happy, but that doesn't mean that I don't want more too.
Right. Yeah, no, I love to talk about that. By the way, when will this episode air? And there's a reason I'm asking.
Probably within the next 4 weeks.
Okay. So, if you really want to learn this business, I'm going to have a live boot camp in Denver, July, the end of July, like the 28th.
Oh yeah, you got 30th. Plenty of time.
Yeah. So if you really want to learn this business, to really invest, if you want to learn how to invest passively in real estate, get the tax benefits, the returns are fantastic. Like we've got a couple of deals coming up in short order where, we're targeting 10% cash on cash return yearly, 15 to 18% internal rate of return over the 5 years that we hold it. So, fantastic returns where inflation is eating away at that return, right?
Yeah, you might be net neutral at 15 to 18%, man.
Right. Yeah. I gotta hate hearing that, but yeah. So, if you are interested in inquiring into our, assets, so we've got a couple of them we're in best and final. One we look really good on, one in San Antonio, one in Jacksonville, Florida. Both markets are fantastic. Text the word partner to 72345. And that's a link to our portal. And as soon as, we have these deals, you can look at them. But the point is, the beautiful thing about real estate, multifamily real estate is you have the ability to invest passively in these larger apartment complexes. And, most operators like ourselves, we offer a preferred return. So the minimum return is 8%, that preferred return. And then we target, like I say, my minimum typically cash on cash is 10%. And these two deals look like they're going to easily fall into that. And that internal rate of return, which includes, the ultimate sale price of the property, the repayment of the debt, the reduction of the debt and things of that nature. The cash flow is in the 15 to 18% range, which is pretty respectable. And so, and that's the beautiful thing. And the other thing is, because we're able to accelerate the depreciation, I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with cost segregation. If not, it's just your ability to accelerate the depreciation. The write-offs can very often equal to the investment, which is just incredible. Okay. So, and I will tell you the beautiful thing, there are lots of asset classes in commercial real estate. Of course, there's office, there's retail, there's industrial, there's self-storage, there's mobile home parks. But the reason that I picked multifamily, and I love multifamily, is it's so freaking resilient. Like even this COVID blip that we had, they weren't helping, warehouse owners and self-storage owners and all these other asset classes like they were offering rental assistance to tenants. I mean, we got hundreds of thousands of dollars in rental assistance from some of our tenants that were impacted by COVID. That doesn't happen in other asset classes. So that's number one. People have to have a place to live, and the powers to be know that. But the other thing, for example, like when 08-09 hit, I got clobbered, like I told you, but I got clobbered because I was in single family. It was the reason I started my podcast. I had 800 single family houses, and that's why I had my lunch given to me. And I had some apartment complexes which did just fine through the crash. If I hadn't cross-collateralized those complexes with packages of houses, I'd still own them. Okay, because they pulled back about 11%, but they would have easily survived. So it's much more resilient, because I think nationally they pulled back around 11% as well. But the other thing is, within 2.5 to 3 years, the rents after the crash, 2.5 to 3 years after the crash, the rents exceeded pre-crash levels. That's how fast it bounced back too. So it's an incredible asset class, which is, why I sing it from the rooftops. But, like I said, if you are interested in the business at all and you're thinking you might want to invest passively, for God's sakes, come to my boot camp, because then you'll really, why would you give your hard-earned money to someone unless you fully understand it? And so, that's a great way to do that. And if you don't want to go to that length, then, you can listen to my podcast as well. But like I said, if you want to, inquire into our deals, text the word partner to 72345 and we'll tell you about them when they come available. And I'm extremely conservative. Most of the time when these deals are done, you're going to have a split between the general partners, which would be us, and the limited partners, which would be you putting money in. And very often that splits like 70-30 or 80-20 in the favor of the limited partners. But it's that disparity is because the deals aren't that, as strong. We're able to do 50-50 because the deals are so freaking strong, because we kiss about 300 frogs to find one. and I'm in a kind of the catbird seat that I've got, about 1,000 students around the country that send me deals. So I'm in a really kind of a coveted spot here, as I see a lot of deals, my team does, but it's a fantastic asset class. I'm happy to answer some questions if you got, David, but I live, eat, and breathe multifamily all day long, and because I love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, how hard is it for somebody to get started? I think that's probably the first question. I mean, what do they need? What type of disposable capital should they have to start going down this road?
It can be as little as 25,000. Most, our minimum is typically around 100,000, but we've cut that in half sometimes. But there are operators that'll take as little as 10,000, but we'd prefer to have fewer and, not have to deal with that many people if we can help it. But, like on our last deal, we raised about 13 million. And we had, by the way, about 10% of that we had the general partners had in the deal. We had our own skin in the game. And we always do, by the way. But again, we're super conservative. You may see operators out there that tell you they can do better returns than that. We're super conservative, and we like to underpromise and overdeliver as well. And so, just be careful with that as well. In fact, I've got a free resource that I'll give you listeners if they really want to invest. It's the questions you should ask a general partner before you get into syndication. And if you text GP questions to 72345, I'll give you this list of questions so that you ask them. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah. So anyway, must have been dust on these books. Anyway, so you
got the questions memorized at this stage, man. You don't need the book. I mean,
right. Well, I don't, but the book is there, to offer as a free resource if anybody is interested in this and doesn't want to come to my boot camp or suffer through my podcast, So it's pretty comprehensive. So you ask the right questions. So you're really digging in to the operator, their experience, and how they plan to run the deal, and so on and so forth.
So the way that I understand what I just heard, and I could be completely off base, but this is almost like and I know it's not a fund, but almost like an investment fund that multiple people are seeding money into, and then you're going out and doing the deal. So it's fractional ownership, right? You own, you're buying in at whatever level you're able to afford, and then your ownership stake in the deal is that percentage, right?
That's exactly correct. And our business model, and some operators will return the money, and then the investors are out of the deal. In our model, what we do is we buy the asset, then we build the value up. And by the way, the beautiful thing about commercial real estate is you're able to build the value by increasing the net income. The net income is what drives the value in a commercial property. And I could give you some extreme examples of that, but we're able to raise the value. We got an asset, for example, we've owned for two and a half years in Louisiana, bought for 16 and a half. We've got under contract for 28 right now. Okay. Give you an idea of how much you can ramp the value. But that one we're selling just because I want to get any market that looks a little shaky for me, we get out of. We had one in Lexington we got out of too. But the point is, the way we do it is we'll refinance once we get that value up, get our investors their money back, all or most of it, and then they're in the deal and the returns are infinity. They stay in the deal for the same percentages. And that's really attractive because, that's the name of my podcast is Lifetime CashFlow. And that's really what we're trying to create or creating. That's what we are creating. And by the way, if you have an interest in this business, my website's got tons of information on it. It's Real Estate with Rod. So I know it's a long domain, but my name, Rod Khleif, nobody can spell it. So Real Estate with Rod, if you go there, they've got videos and articles and books and all sorts of stuff that's free. So you can dig into this if you have an interest,
Good deal. What have we missed, man? What questions should I be asking you? I mean,
listen, we could spend another hour on mindset. It's a topic that I freaking love. I just, there's so many pieces to it, your peer group, your focus, your energy, your courage and just pieces like that. But, maybe another time, but, and multifamily real estate's got so much nuance of, building a team. I mean, if you're thinking about actually doing it actively, building a team, finding deals, financing those deals, syndicating them, doing the due diligence on them, managing them. I mean, we could go as deep as you wanted to go, but I think it's a great overview for your listener base, which is agents and brokers, because if you have disposable income and it's in the bank, like I'm in a lot of cash right now. It's killing me. I want to get it placed in these 2 deals because it's killing me that with inflation. But it's just a safe. I can say that honestly, it's a safe, lucrative investment. It just is, and you can't say that about the stock market or even with COVID, office got killed, retail got killed. I was just down on Lincoln Road in South Beach in May. It was horrible to see 30-40% of the businesses and restaurants had closed. And this is recently, they're still closed. It's just terrible. So, but multifamily, it's strong. So
it's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's everywhere.
That too.
Continuing to be built too, in addition to existing properties. Well, listen, man, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I appreciate you coming on. I do think that was a good overview, but I also am smart enough to know I don't need to recreate or attempt to recreate the wheel on a single podcast when you've got Lifetime CashFlow through real estate investing, major podcast, and you've got the supporting book. You've offered several resources that I hope that everyone will take advantage of. If nothing else, go to realestatewithrod.com and find out what this guy's got on his website, people. We had Brian Will on the podcast, wrote the book, The Dropout Multimillionaire. And what Brian said, and it's something that I've thought about a lot since he was the guest, and that is, 2 things. Number one, somebody like you, Rod, is what we call the 20-year overnight success story, right? Because it's not like it happened. You did the things you needed to do. And one thing I would challenge everybody to do that Rod had said that he does himself. It's something that I personally do. And it's something that I think nearly every successful person I've ever talked to does. And that is, you start with the end in mind and you work back to your daily behaviors and then you execute those to get there. When Rod was talking about all of the things that he visualizes and how specific he gets, he's starting with the end in mind. If the end is the reward and you're visualizing the reward, whether that be monetary, material, whatever it is, start there and work your way back. But the second thing that Brian said was, if you want to get advice on how to be a millionaire, you don't go get advice from a billionaire, right? They just don't think the same way. And so my point to that is this: if you want to be successful in multifamily real estate investing and developing a passive income around that, Rod's your guy. He's already been there, done that. He's laid out the blueprint. He's sharing with people. He's got resources on his website, doing live boot camps. Don't worry about the person on the infomercial who tells you they've done billions and billions of dollars worth of deals, because they're either embellishing or they're just going to be so disconnected from where you are and where you want to get that the advice just really isn't valid. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I will look you up if I'm going to be in Sarasota, not in a swimsuit on a beach, and would love to, grab some lunch or whatever and talk more about it, because I'm at the stage in my career where, I do a lot of angel investing, but typically it's inside of very volatile insurtech products. And I'm willing to get in extremely early and bet on the, overall reward, because it's been a very hot segment. But I need, with 4 kids and a wife and an agency that I don't plan on running forever, I need to start building the base for having that passive revenue from other things. So I would absolutely love to entertain.
Sounds good. So, I look forward to it, my friend. And thank you for having me on, and thank you for the kind words. And hopefully we added some value today.
Yes, sir. You absolutely did. No doubt about that. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.